Hello, everyone, and welcome to the sixth webinar in the ALMA 2021 Continuing Your Leadership Journey virtual program. My name is Thad Gurley, and I'll be moderating today's discussion on improving lab sustainability Green Lab Initiative. We'd like for our webinars to be interactive, so we urge you to submit your questions at any time during the webinar. Our speaker will address the questions at the conclusion of the webinar. Please use the QA icon on the bottom of your Zoom webinar browser to submit questions. We will try to answer as many questions as possible, but if we run out of time during the question and answer session, I will forward any unanswered questions to the presenter. The webinar is being recorded and details will be posted on our website shortly following the webinar. I would especially like to thank our gold sponsor, BMOS Lab Seating, for sponsoring our sixth webinar. Mark Selfo, U.S. Managing Director from BMOS Lab Seating, is here to say a few words and show a video. Welcome, Mark.
Thanks, Thad. On behalf of everyone at BMOS, I'd like to extend our thanks to ALMA for the opportunity to sponsor this event. Sustainability is a very important initiative at our company, and it's woven into everything we do in producing the world's very best lab chairs. We're excited to provide a brief overview of BMOS Lab Seating in an upcoming video, and we look forward to working with all of you in the near future.
Providing the optimal workplace for today's workforce presents a whole host of challenges for any business. But when you check those firms engaged in science and technical research, the facility design complexity level can grow exponentially compared to the office space. And BMOS knows all about that. That's because for well over 60 years, we have been a global leader in the design and production of specialty seating to support workers in the fields of bioscience, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, electronics, robotics, aerospace, and more. BMOS' humble beginnings producing four-legged industrial metal stools has now progressed to being recognized as a global leader in chair production and the brand of choice by many of the world's best-known science and technology-focused firms. At the core of these innovation firms is a community of highly skilled and highly compensated scientists, researchers, chemists, engineers, technicians, and academia partners who endure strenuous physical demands doing long hours of sit-to-stand work and forward-leaning postures over equipment. BMOS chairs and stools provide comfort to reduce fatigue and stress on the body. We place a high value on maximum ergonomic support by providing a full range of user adjustability. Each individual can fine-tune their seat, back, and height settings to accommodate the unique work they have to perform. And this not only benefits the user, but also helps improve health and safety risks on the business. BMOS seating complies with the most stringent performance and testing requirements expected for research space, and our experience has earned us numerous awards and certifications for achieving the highest levels of health, safety, ergonomics, and environmental sustainability. For clean rooms, all our models deliver a level 1, 3, or 7 rating and can support any wet, dry, or hazardous facility. Equally important is our ESD-enabled seating that meets and exceeds the conductive resistance levels needed for high-tech research and assembly areas. And when it comes to durability and longevity, BMOS stands apart with a 10-year warranty and our exacting German engineering. You can count on BMOS being a sound investment to hold up to the rigors needed in labs and production areas for well over a decade of use. BMOS design brings a modern appeal and distinction highly complementary to the aesthetics found in today's progressive lab environments. Our design heritage is clearly evident in the product look, upholstery details, the overall scale, and high-end quality fit and finish. BMOS is proud that every chair we have developed has been in close collaboration and contribution of experts from the science community. It is a big reason why clients see a marked difference in the superior design, quality, and innovation in the BMOS offering. So buying BMOS means more than just buying a place to sit. The purchase of BMOS is a holistic solution that checks every box required for the most sophisticated facilities in business. And what business leader wouldn't see the benefits of providing the best possible seating performance for their frontline science and technology teams who are leading new innovation and changing the tomorrow for all of us? Get to know more about BMOS, because we would like to know more about you.
Thanks, Mark. Without BMOS Lab Seating sponsorship, we would be unable to provide webinars to the ALMA community free of charge. So with that, I would like to introduce our speaker today, Teddy Lhoutellier. Sustainability Manager at the University of Miami. Renewable energy, sustainability, and environmental science are his passion. Teddy started at the University of Miami in 2014, implementing the university's first comprehensive sustainability action plan after receiving a silver ranking through the Sustainability Tracking and Assessment Rating System program. Today, the University of Miami is a STARS Gold University. The Office of Sustainability's team he manages helps initiate, monitor, track, promote, and advertise sustainability initiatives across divisions, schools, and campuses. Green U, as the office is commonly known, is spreading sustainable development values every day among UM community members. Teddy graduated magna cum laude from Florida International University, holding an MS degree in Environmental Studies, Energy Policy. He also holds a LEED Green Associate and a Project Management Professional Certificate. He worked for 4 years as an environmental science and environmental policy instructor at Florida International University and was the outreach coordinator for a Miami-based solar panel distributor. He's an active member of various environmental organizations in Miami-Dade. Teddy, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Thad. Really thankful for being here, and special thanks to Tracy Weeder also, who made the connection at the beginning. Tracy works on our campus, on the medical campus. Let me share my screen. So yeah, I should say that the picture you saw was actually taken in the Caribbean. Someone guessed, so that's because my in-laws are from Dominican Republic, and last name, my last name, obviously, is from France. That's where I'm from originally. That's why you're here. You'll hear an accent. The first disclaimer I have to make is that I'm not a lab manager. So I've learned a lot over the years regarding lab practices, lab equipment, but I'm still learning. And so the lab program, the Green Lab program I'll talk about today is something we started at UM when I started over there, but it would be presumptuous to say that that was the first sustainable initiative in our labs. We had already a lot of lab practitioners that used to be first very aware and then take action on that awareness. And I'm talking mostly about waste diversion because that's what a lot of lab managers are thinking about when they think about sustainability in that environment. So the slide that you see is not a mistake. It's actually a slide that was that I borrowed from the Clio Institute. So nationally, I'm not sure if you know them, but locally in Florida at least, they're #1 climate literacy organization, and we're really glad to partner with them all the time. So the first thing I need to do is just to kind of locate where we are and who we are. So the University of Miami has 3 main campuses. The one I'm doing this webinar from is the Coral Gables campus. So that's, we call it the main campus. Maybe other campuses don't like it, but it's mostly for everything related to student life, academics, research, except the medical side. So the medical side is the middle school of medicine. And then what you see, Rasmus, is another campus, a smaller one. It's the Rosenstiel School of Marine and Atmospheric Science. So on those 3 campuses, we have labs, different kind of labs, obviously. But I'll talk about the general one, the one that is mostly applicable to the medical campus, but also on the marine science campus. So a little bit of background. We have to understand that this commitment to sustainability came from a strong vision, and it came actually in 2007 when the university signed the President's Climate Commitment. Second Nature is the organization managing this commitment, and we report periodically to them on our carbon emission reduction. So that's something we decided to do. For that, we needed to create someone to track and manage those efforts. So that's the Office of Sustainability. I came in 2014. And to achieve reduction in carbon emission, we mostly decided to implement a mandate of building only LEED silver buildings. So LEED is this U.S. Green Building Council certification that is recognized nationally, and we decided to implement that for all new buildings on campus. We had a lot of new buildings, more than 17 since the implementation of that mandate. So that's a kind of where we're heading. The commitment is basically trying to reduce our carbon emissions. There is a carbon neutrality date, but we're really reviewing this because that was a long time ago. But the first milestone was 20% less emission from a 2007 baseline by 2020. So we're on track with this, and the emissions are mostly coming from the usual suspects, and that's, I mean, for any big entity, local government, private company, it's mostly the buildings that are consuming a lot of electricity and energy in general. We have a special place for electricity because everything we do on campus is mostly electricity powered. We don't have steam. We don't buy steam, for instance, because for obvious reason we're in Miami. But we produce chilled water. We don't buy chilled water, for instance. So that's another area where we need a lot of electricity, and the chilled water obviously is the one we use to cool all our buildings, the main refrigerant. We obviously use a lot of other kind of energy sources for our fleets, and some also for our labs, and namely natural gas and propane also for our boilers. So this is what we're trying to do right now. We're trying to actually reduce those specific emissions. We call them Scope 1 emission because they're emissions that are produced directly on our campus, in our labs, for instance. Every time we use an autoclave, or we have some natural gas, or some propane, or some fuel that is spent, and so we're trying to find solutions to that. One of the big solutions for everything related to Scope 2. So Scope 1 was mostly those on-site fuel. Scope 2 is all the electricity that we buy from. We're in a regulated market, so we only and can only buy from FPL, for that power and light. And so those Scope 2 emissions now have been actually tackled in a very different way. We signed in 2019 an agreement with that utility company, it's a private-owned utility company, FPL, and this agreement is called Solar Together. They offered it to several big partners, big customers in the region, and we're among the top 3 higher education institutions that decided to go fully solar. So 100% of our electricity today is actually coming from solar energy centers in Florida. One is really close to us. It's called Homestead Solar Energy Center. But the way it works is basically it's a 30 years agreement program, and we participate. Basically, we're helping build this new solar community program in the region by paying a little bit more for a certain amount of time, and then getting rebates. And that's kind of how this program was adopted, because of also the return on investment was interesting. So that concerns obviously all the campuses. So the Med campus, where a lot of our labs are located, is also among those. We'll still have a gap between 2019 and now. We had a lot of new buildings on the Med campus. We'll have new buildings very soon. So definitely some gap to fill to get to that carbon neutrality goal at one point. But very, very happy and thrilled to have this new agreement at UM. So let's talk about what lab managers, like practitioners, can do on their own, because the Solar Together program is great, but doesn't prevent us from saving energy, especially because every kilowatt hour we'll use over that that agreement won't be solar. So we need to make sure that we do the right thing and save as much water, energy, obviously, and waste as we can. So that's why we created the Green Lab program. Again, it's very modest, humble. I'm sure if you, we'll finish this presentation with some of the experts in the field nationally, but even some other higher education, don't want to name anybody, but have really strong and robust Green Lab programs, so you can look for them out there. So the Green Lab is organized in several categories. So you have recycling and reuse. We could call that also waste diversion. So it's trying to find ways to lower the amount of waste that we're producing, and also divert as much as we can from either landfill or incinerators, which is another big issue for our labs. So one of the things that we realized is that even if you have recycling over our campus, in the hallways, in the offices, and sometimes, and until recently, there was no alternative, like specific recycling bin close to each counter for the labs. And so unfortunately, what you will see, if you don't have an easy way to get rid of a glove box or some kind of paperboard item, even some of those in our region, at least, it's very strict what we can put in the recycling bin, the single stream recycling. So without talking obviously about all the biosafety criteria and requirements, everything that is safe, according to the level of biosafety of the lab, can be recycled in that bin. If it's made out of plastic, wet plastic, it's usually what we tell people, because that's what we've been told by our waste hauler, is anything that is narrow neck. So something, a container actually that is a narrow neck and large base, is made out of plastic and is not used for hazardous with hazardous or chemical products, could be recycled. But it's true that the main output that we get from our medical campus is cardboard, paperboards. Everything related to paper is managed through confidentiality. So we have a contract with a company called Shredded that I'm sure you know, and so all that paper that we send to be shredded is actually also recycled. It's probably a better way to recycle paper than with the regular single stream recycling, because sometimes the paper gets stained and is not going, like at least 30% of what we send to the recycling plant don't make it to the recycling. It's going to go to landfill because of contamination sometimes. So something to think about. So other things that we recommend is to reuse shipping polystyrene boxes. There are some programs out there. I'm going to talk about a few companies that I'm sure you deal with also, VWR, Sigma, and they have some programs like those. Can be a little cumbersome to keep the polystyrene boxes, but I know a lot of black practitioners that have done that for a long time. So that's a good way to not throw away polystyrene. And also pipette boxes, an issue with the plastic. I told you about narrow neck. That's a rule of thumb. It's easy to remember. But everything else that is made of plastic is usually not a number, a polymer that is accepted by the single stream recycling system. So there are definitely a lot of counties, states where this single stream accept a lot more. So maybe it's your case, but here we have a lot of restrictions. So we need to make sure that number 5 plastic, for instance, which is the case of those pipette boxes, is find a way out. And so some of those big companies like VWR or Sigma, they have some programs for that. We'll talk about that in a second. We want to make sure that everybody understands the importance of putting the right waste in the right bin, especially for red biohazardous bins, because the time we put something that is not really contaminated into a red bag, it's a lot of environmental impact, because instead of a landfill, it's going to be incinerated, and it's has a bigger environmental impact, and also a bigger cost for the institution, 7 times the price sometimes for 1 pound of regular trash versus 1 pound of red bag trash. So that's something we got some help with. Maybe you've done that in the past, or you're doing it. We partnered at the time with a company consultant who was actually training our lab managers and some of our healthcare also employees to make sure they knew what to put in that biohazardous bag. Especially in healthcare facilities, there was some misconception of putting everything in the red bag, and that we saw a lot of savings thanks to this kind of education campaign for our staff, and that's something that we think about, like promoting again. Let me go over the energy side. There's some things that lab petitioner can do to make sure that we save energy. The usual things that are not really specific to a lab, like for instance, making sure that we use the computer on the sleep mode. The EPA estimate that you just changing that. I'm not talking about healthcare facilities, because obviously it's a little bit more challenging to put everything on sleep mode. But in a lab, I think you could definitely, depending on your IT authorization protocol, but you could definitely save a lot of energy by just switching not only your screen but also your computer on sleep mode. That's what we ask people, and some of our IT team have done that like automatically for entire departments. Turn off the light. That's an obvious one. But probably the 2 most important thing that lab managers and lab practitioners can do to save energy is definitely to manage the fume hood properly. The best is obviously to buy the best fume hoods out there that have automatic systems to shut down or to close. I've seen some really new labs in some other states where they have those kind of equipment, pretty impressive. But if you have a normal fume hood and a normal kind of lab where there's no automation, it is something to think about, like making sure that we close the fume hood. A little something that will come back on, but 1 fume hood equal the energy consumption of 3.5 homes. So I think people understand that it's really a big energy consumption. Exterior windows and windows are properly closed. That's something because in our region, at least, we always run AC 10 months out of the year. It's really, I mean, in a healthcare facility, it's always like that anyway, I think anywhere in the country, but especially in our region, we have really hot temperature outside and humidity especially. So AC is always running. And so anything that, old buildings, I'm not talking about the new LEED certified buildings, but in old buildings, anything that is not properly closed is gonna really waste a lot of energy. So the other one big thing that lab practitioner can do is obviously taking care of their freezers. Again, if you can buy one of those super high efficient freezer, -20 or -80, by all means. But most of the time it comes with a tag price, and also you just need to wait until you need to replace your old freezer, and that's not every day. So obviously not something you can do that easily, but what you can do definitely is to maintain the freezer in a proper way so that it's going to extend its life first and save energy too. So if you can, not just by buying a new freezer, but if there's a renovation in the lab, or check with the design construction team if there's a way to actually commonize the area. I know a lot of you probably do it for the autoclave, and probably also for some freezers, but it makes perfect sense to try to share as much as we can, if it's feasible. I know that some researchers cannot share, but if it's possible, that's another really good way to save energy. I'm going to come back on the freezer side because we have a little program that we adopted. It's a national program, Freezer Challenge. The other thing that we recommend is water conservation. So a lot of our labs have autoclave chamber. Recommend obviously run it only when full, but not to overload it either. Sink aerators, they're little things we can do to save a bit of water. It's not what's really is going to change everything. Probably there's at the facilities level more impactful changes, like for instance using the water from the condensate of the chilling towers. That's one of the many different things that you can do to save water and reuse it. But that's not really something that the lab managers will have an impact on that. In the lab, maybe a little bit less than for energy, but still. Then green purchasing, so everything that we can do to buy things that produce less waste and have a lesser impact on the environment is going to be helpful. So we have some recommendations. We have a green purchasing policy at UM. But it's something that it's not always applicable, obviously, for every kind of division, especially for research. So let me go over a few of those programs. So one of the programs that we recommend is to look at if you have to if you're in an old building, existing building, not a new one, and you have to replace a few furniture, maybe some equipment, you can still look at our surplus warehouse. So we have a warehouse where all the offices, labs that are moving, renovating, they send their material over there, and meaning that if others are interested, they can actually they can use those. One thing for sure is that it's going to help also other entities abroad. Sometimes we have people from the Caribbean coming to the surplus to buy in bulk those really cheap secondhand furniture and lab equipment. The waste diversion rate includes a lot of different things, but it's not narrowed to the let's say the lab itself. It includes everything, the dining halls, the landscaping. So it might not be a perfect reflection of how much waste is diverted from the labs. What we try to do is to also offer programs for instance, the toner recycling program. We had something that was really helpful for a little while. Then I think there was an issue on the market where repurposed cartridges were a lot cheaper from raw material coming from China, and it kind of broke the market for those mom and pop kind of recyclers locally. And so now we offer that through main brands like Staples and Canon. So the stickers that you see here is the one that we ask our lab managers to put on their fume hoods if they don't have it already. And this is the freezer challenge. We'll go back on the organization who launched this this competition, but it's a friendly competition for everybody in the country to participate in. And what we try to do is to send a little monthly tip to all our lab managers and tell them what they can do to maintain their freezer in order to save energy. So you have a series of best practices that actually Tracy Weir was kind enough to put together with some of our folks to make sure that people know. Some researchers might not know actually how to best maintain and care for their freezer. So that's a very helpful list of simple, actionable items. Again, PI might want to get a new freezer, but budget restriction being there, that they have to wait or to wait for the other rent cycle. And so in the meantime, what can you do? This is a very simple way to address that. What can I do myself in the lab? So that's a really helpful competition. We also decided to partner with some of our vendors. So maybe Vimos would be interested, but I'm talking about most of the lab equipment, disposable lab equipment mostly. And VWR is this big distributor, and they offer a lot of products that unfortunately are single use. So we end up with a lot of waste. And lab is one of those areas where you have a lot of waste. So anything that we can do, and with their help, to reduce that waste, it's welcome. So one of the things we've tried over the years is to offer recycling system for those non-conventional kind of plastic that are not recycled in the single stream recycling system. So that's, for instance, apparels, gloves, but also now pipette boxes. So we're trying. It's difficult sometimes because the market of recycled plastic goes up and down, and companies that are recyclers also. And so right now we're trying to work with a company called Lady Green, so local, very local, women-owned company in Miami-Dade that is interested. Not sure if we'll be able to implement the program fully everywhere, but interested in recycling pipette boxes. We tried in the past, but the company, for instance, realized after a year that they were not making enough money to keep on recycling those pipette boxes. So the alternative is VWR can offer a bin that people can actually ship back. Just like most of those recycling systems, there's free shipping boxes that we get for free. But well, we don't get for free. We normally have to pay for it. Those programs that we have in several buildings are free pilot, but at one point, those boxes need to be bought from the distributor and then shipped for free back to the recycling facility. So that's true for the gloves, or the garment, PPE recycling, and also for pipette boxes actually. So that's one example of one of our doctors that is really adamant about not wasting. And that's another thing. We don't have a policy on just recycling everything, because we know it has a big cost. So we offer that option, and a lot of our PI decide to adopt it, but not everybody. Again, it has a price tag. So when there's little grant money and budgets are restricted, we understand that it's not always the priority. So another way to deal with those pipette boxes that are like a humongous amount of waste in a lab, it's simply to use them, and if they're refillable. So the only thing is, I've talked to many lab managers. If you have a lab meeting and students and grad students and research assistants are there, they can maybe fill those pipette boxes with new tips that you buy from the distributor. Otherwise, it takes a long time to do that. And even with a lot of staff meeting, you might not be able to refill all those pipette boxes. So it's really up to each lab to see what is most convenient for them. But ultimately, the best would be to have a kind of plastic that can be recycled by a single stream. I hope in our region at least, and maybe you're not in that case, I'm happy for you, but that number 5 plastic, which is this bulk amount of plastic that we generate, could be recycled. in normal system. So I talked a lot about the medical campus with a lot of research around healthcare, but we also have labs on our main campus, and we have biology lab, plant biology, for instance. And this is a video that we made for lab managers from lab practitioners, actually from researchers at the Coral Gables campus. I'm going to show you the video. I hope the sound is not too bad. Hold on one second.
So we're with Dr. Akami from the biology department. Can you tell us a little bit more about the few green features that are in your lab?
Sure. So this is our -80 freezer. It's supposed to be, fairly ecologically, friendly, so it's the energy efficient. We store a lot of samples for we do work on plant microbe interactions. So we store a lot in our -80 for doing DNA and RNA extractions. This is Alex Wilson's -80, and we actually we store samples in both so that we can back up our samples rather than they have multiple freezers we share between the two labs. So we each have one, but we actually put samples in both.
So sharing is the way.
Yeah, it helps. This is Alex's lab.
Oh, I wanted to ask you about the Fume Hood. I see a little sticker over here.
This is right. So this is Alex's lab, but right, we have both labs shut down. And I guess I should say that part of the reason that there's a door between our labs, so I moved in with the door so that we could actually share equipment, so we wouldn't have to duplicate some of the efforts where like I don't have a gel station because she has that equipment, and like I have a cubist, so she can use that. So we don't buy as much different equipment.
Yeah, when it's visible, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it works really well. It saves us money, and it helps, in terms of not being wasteful. It's stuff we don't need more for.
So you mentioned also reusing equipment.
Yeah. So this is one of my colleagues just retired, and so this is a balance that was in his lab, and we just rescued it because it's still in good shape. It's older, but it'll be really handy. We can set it up to do our weighing in our fume hoods rather than buying a new one. We try to use equipment that's available. Save us money and helps us with our
Waste diversion, for sure.
Help us with recycling. All of our personal spaces, so we have recycling bins here that we use in the postdoc office, and then also in my office. It's empty at the moment, but I like to drink soda, so I'm going to take one.
But I see that you also have it in the lab, so it's
yeah, that's right.
That's great.
Anything that can be recycled, we try to also have it. A lot of stuff has to be properly disposed of for biohazards, for example. When we can, we try to use recycled.
For instance, the boxes. The gloves are not recyclable, but the boxes are.
Yeah, right. Stuff like that can be recycled. In general, that's some of the stuff. We try to run. I think we try to run appliances that when we're not using them. So right now we have like our incubator going because it's actively culturing microbes, but a lot of times it's not. We have it off. We don't have it. We don't have it heating just for the sake of heating.
All right.
All right, so let me go back to the presentation. All right, so yeah, Professor Akami, she's a plant biologist working on the next plant that will adapt to climate change. So that's important research, obviously, but very mindful about her impact on the environment inside the lab. So that's, I hope it helped a little bit having a fellow lab practitioner helping you with this. So I see some question, but I guess that will ask them at the end. So let me go to the next slide. And another company we've been we've been dealing with the Stericycle. So Stericycle is actually now bought shredded, so they're both Stericycle and shredded. Stericycle is this biohazardous holder that you know, everybody knows about. So they offer a lot of good services, especially educational ones, on something I mentioned earlier. It was not them at the time, it was another consultant. But Stericycle offers a lot of good advice and a lot of free educational outreach material most of the time. So especially on red bags education. So that's a really good thing to do, is to reach out to those vendors, because they usually really treat their customers really well and offer a lot of aside kind of programs to help with being more sustainable. So for instance, they're also partner on making sure that all our shop containers were recyclable. So we decided to do that with them too. I mentioned the freezer challenge. That's from the My Green Lab. So My Green Lab is this organization. Maybe you're part of it already. I'm gonna go over the website in a second. I think this is probably, with another website I'll show you, the two main nationwide expert on sustainable labs. And one thing that we didn't mention through the green purchasing and the green lab program that we have is everything related to chemicals. It's hard because a lot of those alternative to conventional chemicals are sometimes more expensive. There's also a lot of on-site recycling of or repurposing of used chemicals. So there's a lot of things that can be done, especially for solvent, for instance. But I really strongly advise you to look into those alternatives. There's even some universities, and we've basically shamelessly used what they had done, they have like a catalog of every conventional chemical and their alternative. They've been accepted and are useful. So that's something that I think you'll be interested in. So that's the My Green Lab. Let's go on the website for a second. And you'll see a lot of great stuff. So I think the freezer challenge is over here. Green chemistry, that's what I was talking about. So you have a whole guide on what kind of alternative you have in the on the market. And it's true, Sigma has done a lot. They have a lot of good opportunities to switch. There's a decision to make in terms of cost, definitely also, but it's something also. They have the Green Lab certification, so that we've been inspired by what they've done over the years, for sure. They have a summit. So I really just Google them if you don't know them, mygreenlab.org. Pretty simple. And the last very important tool that I would recommend is this Smart Labs Toolkit. It's really, they take you by the hand and guide you through all the steps you would like to take if you're interested in making your lab really green. So that's very interesting, even for new construction. If some of your folks in your institution are building new labs, you might not be the person to tell them what to pick, but actually as a lab practitioner you are. And so in new construction you can definitely influence what kind of, like, for instance, the simple thing that Dr. Kami was saying in the video, which is just to have an open door between labs to allow for communization of big equipment, especially the energy guzzler like freezers. It's amazing. So they have this cool kind of let me see if it's shared. Yes, it's shared. So you can click on that's a very user-friendly kind of website. You can click on each little button and you'll see what kind of suggestion they have to save water, energy, waste, purchasing, and so that's the Smart Lab Toolkit. Very, very impressive. Let me go back to the presentation because I think I have a few things to. So one thing that has nothing to do with the labs, but it's on our 3 campuses, and it's actually on our Met campus now, where all those labs, all around the garden that you see over here, they're labs. Pretty much every building are around it are labs, and this is also something to think about. You know, well-being, be connected to nature, especially when you're in an enclosed environment all day. All those students that you see are actually grad students that are working in labs, and they're so happy to be to be in the garden. They're growing food. Actually, we did a little partnership with our cancer support services at the Sylvester Cancer Center, and helped with the this nice urban food garden. So they even harvest a few of those things to show their patient what to cook when they're after their chemo treatment. And the plant that you see me planting over here is called a miracle fruit. And that's something that some doctors oncologists have been using to fix this issue, which is like the loss of taste after during the chemotherapy treatment. And this fruit is basically changing every taste from a lemon will taste sugary and sweet after you eat that little berry. So little things that we're doing outside the lab that can also help maintain a balance. And that's the website for the University of Miami and my contact email. So if you have questions, I'm ready. I hope I can answer them.
Yeah. Thanks, Teddy. That was a really nice presentation on improving lab sustainability, the Green Lab Initiative. So we have time for 2 to 3 questions. So yeah, basically the first one, and I think you've seen some of these, but yeah, you say to use reusable glassware over single-use items, but it doesn't take a lot of water to wash, produce wastewater, and need energy to autoclave. Is it better sustainability? So I guess it's kind of that, robbing Peter to pay Paul. How do you make that?
No, it's a good question.
Yeah.
And same kind of question of well, should I use the paper bags or the plastic bag? It all depends. Honestly, it's what you look at for. Let's say paper bag, plastic bag. The paper bag is better if you're going to compost it. I do, but if you look at carbon footprint, actually the plastic bag wins because it's lighter, so less fuel to transport and so on. Regarding glassware versus single use, same thing. If you have a very efficient autoclave that is commonized, that's gonna in a commonized area, it's probably better than sending all this material that weighed a lot to incineration or sometimes just trash landfills. So it all depends on what criteria you're looking at. Definitely, you're going to spend more water and energy because to bring water to your building, you need some energy. But if your building is equipped with the right water saving, energy saving equipment, I think it's still better than single use. Single use, and you have a feeling that it doesn't make sense to use something 5 minutes and throw it away and then it's gonna disappear. Never really disappears. It's gonna create dioxin when it's burning in an incinerator. So yeah, it's a tough choice because single use is really cheap nowadays.
Yes, it is.
But, yeah.
Okay. Well, great. Yeah, thank you. So another question that came is, have you found that incentives or mandates are more effective in encouraging participation in your lab greening efforts? And if you use incentives, what have you found most useful?
To be really transparent, I think both. And actually mandates cannot come from above and be imposed like this. It needs to be agreed upon by several stakeholders in your institution. It is important from leadership, because that's the way people will implement things. Because in a lab environment, nobody has time. Everything is more important than to put the right stuff in the right bin. I understand that, but if it's part of the training that has been mandated by our leadership, it's not something that has to do with compliance. There's a lot of lab safety training that have to deal with compliance. So you have to take it, because otherwise you cannot work in a lab. For sustainability, it's not the same. So it's up to, I think, the leadership to include that in the training, and to get the buy-in from everybody to do that in a seamless manner. Incentives work, but alone you don't get very far, I think, especially because people are thinking about other things than just getting free products. Or in a lab environment, I don't think it works that well.
Yeah, that's great. So, one last question that I had is, so what if you're coming, at this from a junior level, looking at sustainability? I mean, how do you get leadership to buy in? Maybe that's maybe not on the top of their, list of things to accomplish and do. So do you have any advice about that? Kind of like,
I think if you don't have any sustainability office or any sustainability manager in your institution, that it could be the first thing to do, and include the labs in a broader spectrum of things, because we have a lot of different programs: the Green Office program, the Green Event program, the Green Loading Dock program, receiving area. So we have, and it's not only operation; it's also, for instance, we talked about food and how to link the well-being and healthcare to sustainable practices, like simply growing your own food, or building a butterfly garden for people to relax the mind, for instance. That's something that will need buy-in by more than just the lab workers and even the lab leadership. I think it's at the institution level to start somewhere. There are a lot of good partners out there. I would definitely go back to My Green Lab, but also with if you're in a healthcare environment, Practice Green Health is a great resource, and they can help you set up a sustainability action plan, where lab will have a big role to play. But yeah, so that's I think you need to build a momentum, but if you start from scratch, if you have students are really good advocates.
yes.
So that's really a good way to make sure that leadership will listen.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so one question, somebody asked about putting the websites for the Green Labs and the Smart Labs. So yeah, so I put the Green Labs website into the chat, and then Stuart Magoon put in the Smart Labs website. What was you said? Green Health. That was if you're in a healthcare.
Practice Green Health. So that you can Google it. Practice
Green Health.
Green Health. That's super easy.
Okay.
And very, very, very helpful. They're not focused on labs, most on healthcare. But again, if you're part of a campus where you have labs and healthcare together, it's very helpful.
Okay. Well, great. Well, yeah, thanks, Teddy. So this brings us to the end of our sixth webinar in the ALMA 2021 Continuing Your Leadership Journey virtual program. We would like to remind you that this webinar will be available to view later, and details will be on our website shortly. On behalf of ALMA, we would like to thank Teddy for presenting today. Thanks again to BMO's Lab Seating for sponsoring our sixth webinar. We'd also like to thank the audience for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. For more information on our upcoming webinars, please visit the ALMA website, labmanagers.org. And please join us on December 2nd for our 7th virtual program event, where we will have a panel discussion with senior lab managers on advancing on the management ladder. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.